Howdy, howdy, howdy. How's it going? How's it going? Let's see. Do that. Sorry, monitor that is. Perfect. Oh! Perfect timing. Hello, Annika. Crafty Kaname here to yell at me. Don't yell at me. I just started stream. I'm not ready to be yelled at. Welcome in, welcome in. Thank you for the hydrate. Just started stream. Idle game, idle game, idle game, idle game, idle game, idle game, yep. That is what we're working on today. Welcome in, Raiders. Let me remember how to shout out. There we go, I don't have a proper bot set up, so you just get the generic shout, but please, everyone who isn't already following Craft Economy, please go do so. They're awesome. Very cool variety streamer. Gasp! Metal Gear Alert sound. Welcome in, Raiders. How was Needy Streamer Overload? Now it can get a little bit heavy at times, but was it at least engaging? Don't want to necessarily say fun, because I know parts of it can be very concerning or stressful. It was sus. Fair enough. Welcome in, welcome in. So, for anyone who hasn't been here and doesn't know about this, I'm working on a little Pikmin-themed, mostly auto-playing game, like idle game, with the intention of this potentially being something that streamers could stick on their streams. It's kind of like a little semi-interactable thing going on in the background. Even idle game coding streams are so cool, can't wait. Glad you think so. So, this is what we've been working on so far. We got Pikmin. They can wander around. They can, drink, some of the yellow... My mind is blanking on words. Nectar. They can drink nectar to become flower Pikmin. They can get, pellets and bring them back to spawn more Pikmin. And then we were just starting to work on adding enemies and combat. They can drink the yellow, yep. Yellow nectar. Not any other kind of thing that they're drinking. Mm-hmm. I will be a little bit distracted today because the Overwatch League Grand Finals are on today, and my hometown team is potentially going to win. We'll see. So I have that open on a second monitor. But yeah, so I'm excited. I don't have much of a direct connection to the team, really, but I root for them because I can't just root for everybody. So I'm excited. They haven't won before. Yep, let's go Outlaws, woo! I know no one cares about Overwatch in 2023, but I care a little bit. So anyway, I was running this, and then I realized things were crashing when I tried to show it on stream, so I need to figure out why that's happening. Or just rip grass out of the ground and suck up the liquid that comes out. In Pikmin, yes. Don't think I've ever done that in any other circumstance. Alright, so I saw the error message earlier, and then I refreshed the page, so now it's gone. So let me just run this a few times and see if I can get it to happen again. You care that I care about Overwatch? Fair enough. Yeah, I think it's a very interesting and deep game that is ruined by the fact that it is very unapproachable to casual players. Even compared to something like Counter-Strike. There's just a lot of stuff going on, and it's hard to keep track unless you already know all the characters and how they work very well. And even then, I'm only surprised at how little the professional like coaches and stuff can keep up with meta changes and the like. As far as I'm concerned, Overwatch used to have an identity and it's quickly losing it. Fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, so of course, now that people are here, it's not breaking anymore. Sounds about right. I think it's something to do with the nectar. And it's not working. Played Overwatch 1, and I remember enjoying a little. Never played Overwatch 2 after learning with the co-op stuff they were working on. Yeah, they released some PvE missions that they've salvaged from the work they did on that, but it's definitely not very replayable or long-term engaging. Which is unfortunate. I have a suspicion that maybe the single-player stuff was never that good. They couldn't make it work properly. And about Overwatch a billion years ago and then played it and never played it again because it made you really motion sick. Yeah, that's unfortunate, but it sounds about right. Very fast-paced first-person game. There we go. Okay, we got an error message. Perfect. D is undefined. Where is that happening? The nectar drop. If D is deleted, or D amount is less than 0, or Pikmin maturity is flower, go to idle. Okay, so this nectar drop is getting deleted, or it's null. So let's take a look at how that happens. Yeah, so that's for the drop command, I think. Move to drink command. Okay, makes sense. So they're trying to move to a nectar drop and then the nectar drop goes away. That sounds about right. So how does this command get entered? Oh, I see what I did wrong here. Okay. So the logic here is it looks for any nearby nectar drops that are within 400 pixels of the Pikmin. And that there's fewer drinkers on the nectar than there are things that can be drunk from it. And here we check to see if there are any nearby collectibles, and if there are, we pick a random one and send the Pikmin to it. And here we check to see if the nearby nectar drops list exists. Not whether there's actually anything in the list or not. So we just need to change this here to dot length. So we're checking to see if the nearby nectar drops variable existed, and it does exist, but if it has nothing in it, then we can't exactly pick a random one to go to. So if we check to see if the length is a valid value, meaning not 0, then that should work. Okay, easy enough to fix. Surprised we didn't catch that last time. It looks terrible when it's squished down like that. But the game does somewhat scale to the browser size that you set, so no matter what form factor you do for your browser source here, the game is still mostly playable. Unless you make it like super tiny. There we go. So let's figure out how to do combat in this system. So we got our little dwarf bulborbs standing there animated, but they're not actually going anywhere or doing anything. So let's start by having them chase down and eat Pikmin, shall we? So we've got our list of dwarf bulborbs and the dwarf bulborbs list. Currently, in our update function, we're looking through all the Pikmin and doing things based on the Pikmin's command. Looking through all the collectibles and dragging them towards their target if they have people carrying them. So we need to do something similar to move enemies. For now, we just have the one enemy type, Dwarf Bulborb. So let's just do something specific to them for now. Dwarf Bulborbs. And it's possible that we may make this more generic to apply to other enemy types later, but for now, let's start there. Alright, so for Dwarf Bulborbs, we need to be able to describe their types of behavior that they can have in this game. So for Pikmin, we've got Pikmin commands here. So we're going to need something for like enemy commands. Do we call them enemies or do we call them like monsters? We call them monsters, so let's say monster command. So Pikmin can do things like they can be idle, they can move, they can pick things up, they can carry things. So we're going to have some similar options here for monsters, I think. Carrying things, yep. Pikmin can do that. So, if you think about a Dwarf Bulborb and Pikmin, generally it'll just be sitting there, not really doing much until it gets interacted with, so it's idle by default, not doing anything. Imagine a Pikmin carrying something, that never happens, yeah, never. They can move, so like if they move outside of their triggering radius, then they, most enemies, when they reach the end of their tether, they go back to their spawn point. So we'll need to be able to tell them to move. And then they can also chase after Pikmin or captains to try to get them. So let's have a chase action. Alright, command. And a Pikmin carrying something that never happens. Nope, definitely not a core functionality. So then when a Bulborb is actually doing things. It's generally chasing after Pikmin. There's a couple other things it can do while it's doing that. So, if a bunch of Pikmin are on a Bulborb and attacking it, then it'll try to shake them off. So a shake is a kind of command, a kind of thing that the Bulborb can do. And Bulborbs, of course, can also eat Pikmin. So eat is another command. So with those 5, that should be a good starting point for mapping out our Dwarf Bulborb's behavior. And we can always expand this for other enemy types in the future if they have stuff that doesn't match up with these. So first off, we have our idle command. So for idle Dwarf Bulborbs, they kind of just stay there. And they don't really, like, change up their behavior at all, for the most part, unless they're doing, like, some kind of patrol or something, but we'll ignore that for now. Deal magic damage after it shakes, it loses int points, which makes Pikmin less strong. Exactly. Completely different game. So, like, for our Pikmin, we have them keep track of how long they've been idle, so they'll wander around a little bit when they've been idle for too long. For enemies, I don't think we need to bother. Enemies can pretty much just stay still, doing what they're doing. Obviously the same game. Oh yeah. Then we need the move command. So I think, like the Pikmin 1, we need where they're moving from and where they're moving to. So we'll just copy and paste that over from there. Oh, type. There we go. And then after that, we've got chase. So this is when we're chasing after a specific Pikmin, in this case. So let's specify. So for example, for like the Pikmin, when we're moving to pick up something, we have a reference to the collectible that they're trying to pick up or carry. So we should be able to do the same thing here by specifying, say, like target and the Pikmin that they're chasing. Makes sense to me. And then they chase, and then if they have Pikmin on them, they attempt to shake off the Pikmin. And then they attempt to eat a specific Pikmin. Or I guess potentially multiple Pikmin. So we're going to keep things kind of simple for now. There's no way for them to escape being eaten currently. It's just they will get eaten if they get close enough and the Bulborb targets them. Unfortunate for those Pikmin. Perfect timing, boss fight music. Okay. Now there's a few things we can probably add in here. So when they're shaking, we'll need to keep track of how long they've been doing that to know how long to play the animation for. Same for eating. We didn't know when it triggers to know how long to play the animation for. We do the same thing here with like drink time for Pikmin drinking. So that should be our data there. And now monsters, we need to know what command they're doing, so we need to add a reference here for that. So for Pikmin, we keep track of their command here, the Pikmin command. For monsters, we'll have to also have a command. This will be a monster command. And because Dwarf Bulborbs are a type of monster here, they will have a command as well. Okay, so now that we've done all of that legwork, we can actually implement these commands and what they do. Let's see. How's the match going? The match is not started yet. Sounds about right. Okay. Oh, and now that we've done that, we need to give a initial command to the dwarf bulb orbs that we're spawning. So for now, they're just gonna idle. And we don't need anything else there because idling is just something they do. We don't need any additional properties to describe how they idle. Easy enough. You're gonna switch to casting when it starts? We'll see. I think they've got a couple, like, non-match segments for a while to pad out the time. It's like halftime, essentially. And then they've got another match that's got to play all the way through, so depending on how long that lasts, we may be done with stream before they get a chance to start that match. But yeah, if they start the match early enough, I don't think I can actually pull it up because licensing, but I could switch to watching it and commentating on it. That'd be kind of fun. Last year I tried to do like a commentary stream for the Overwatch League finals, but this year I haven't been following as closely, so I don't really have a good understanding of the meta. So I don't know that I could really provide much insight other than, hey look, people died in the kill field. That's important, probably. Licensing, yeah. Yeah, you could sign up and be like an official co-streamer that would allow you to like provide commentary on the official stream as like your own stream. But you have to stream on YouTube and you have to follow a bunch of like ad restrictions and stuff, and I just don't feel like dealing with that. I haven't set up for YouTube streaming yet. So anyway, yeah. So let's do dwarf bulb orb behavior. So for the Pikmin, we currently have a setup here where we are looping through all the Pikmin and then checking each command type and providing behavior for that command type. So let's do the same thing here. Okay, so if dwarf bulb orbs are idling, and they're just chilling, and we'll need to tell them to do something other than chill if we want them to react to anything that's going on screen. So generally speaking, monsters will just chill until a Pikmin gets nearby, and that draws their attention. So let's have them check to see if there are any nearby Pikmin. I smell on the ground definitely like a dwarf bulb orb do. Exactly. So we're going to find all the nearby Pikmin using similar logic to what we do for the Pikmin up here. So we have this logic here to like find all the nearby collectibles. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to find all the Pikmin where the distance to the Pikmin is within a certain amount. Let's just modify this real quick. So the difference between the dwarf bulb orb's position, its X and Y coordinates, and the distance between that and the Pikmin's X and Y coordinates. And then we need some pixel value on here. Generally, the Pikmin in this game will have wider reaction speed or wider reaction range, action range, whatever, than the enemies. Just because we don't want the enemies just running roughshod over everything. Let's limit it to some smaller number, like 150, and we can see how that looks from there, playtest it. So we find all the Pikmin on screen that are within 150 pixels of the dwarf bulb orb. And then we can say if there's anything in that list, if the length is of that list is 1 or more, then we can start chasing those Pikmin. So we'll get a random Pikmin from the list of nearby Pikmin. And then we'll update the Dwarf Bulb's command to be a new command that is a... what type of command? A chase command. So when a Pikmin gets close enough, they start chasing that Pikmin. So you set the target, and look at that, we already picked a target. So they start chasing that Pikmin. That'll work. Let's see, do I have an else for this? No, just a bunch of adjacent if statements. There's definitely cleaner ways to do this, but this is simple enough for now. So let's implement move. We don't currently have a system for moving yet, but we'll just go ahead and implement that since it should be pretty easy. Let's look at what we do for Pikmin. So if Pikmin is moving, then we just have a function that moves Pikmin towards that position. And if they reach it, then they idle. Let's basically do the same thing for the Dwarf Bulborbs. They've been told to move to a specific location. They will do that. And then once they get there, they will go idle. Alright. There's a few things we gotta tweak here because our function here is move Pikmin towards, but this is not a Pikmin. Use of logic is sick. Watching this makes me want to code something for fun. Nice. Yeah, normally I'm really big on logic reuse. I'm being a little bit looser here because this is a for fun stream project rather than like something serious. But like reusing stuff is a big thing with me. Normally I'd be like making this whole abstract system to avoid having to have similar logic between both Pikmin and monsters, but in this case, copy and paste is good enough. Okay, so we already have a function to move an entity towards a position. Unserious Pikmin game, you need to be 110% serious about this. Oh, trust me, I'm very serious about my Pikmin. What is that random space doing there? Get out of there. So Pikmin, move Pikmin towards is there because it takes into account the Pikmin speed, and it causes the Pikmin to look at the target. Get out of your space, you're not welcome, exactly. Move entity towards, on the other hand, doesn't do any of that. It just moves it directly towards where it's trying to go, and you specify the speed yourself. So I think we need something in the middle here, because we do want the Dwarf Bulborbs to look at where they're going. And we do want their speed to be affected by things, so maybe there's a way to make this more generic. So get Pikmin speed, this is obviously highly specific to the Pikmin. What if you have something like get monster speed? That's not gonna work, is it? Just monster? No, why doesn't that work? Oh, we don't have a list of specific monsters, that's why. Because we just have Dwarf Bulborbs right now. There we go. So currently a monster has to be a Dwarf Bulborb, but there could be more monsters in the future. So if the monster type is Dwarf Bulborb, then their speed, just say 1 for now, that's easy enough. And if we don't know what type of monster it is, then we'll just default to 1. So currently that doesn't do anything, but that will matter if we have multiple monster types in here. And then our Pikmin look at function here So currently the only reason this is Pikmin specific is because we're looking at this Pikmin's direction property here and setting that. So Pikmin has a direction, but Monster also has a direction. Both of those things have directions they face in. So, what if instead of this being specific to Pikmin, we call this like creature look at? And instead of this being specific to Pikmin, we can say this could be a Pikmin or it could be a monster. Looking at creature, yep. Creatures are they do be looking. So because both Pikmin and monsters both have directions, the code still just works just fine. We can say this could be either one of those things. I'll rename that to C to represent that it's a creature, rather than specifically a Pikmin. There we go, now our creature look at function is generic. Now let's see if we can do the same thing with our move Pikmin towards function. So currently we have some specific logic to get speed based on the Pikmin speed, but we could also make this generic. We could make this get creature speed instead. Pikmin or creature, or monster. So now it's going to complain because we're checking for the Pikmin's maturity level, but monsters don't have maturity levels. So let's only run this code if our creature is in fact a Pikmin. So we can check the creature's type here. Check if it is a Pikmin. And if it is, then we do all that logic in there. And if it's not a Pikmin, then currently we just return 1. But now this code will work whether it is a monster or a Pikmin. And I guess we can actually move this in here. Our monster-specific logic for dwarf bulbs. And that all still works. So let's start there. So now this move Pikmin towards function. I don't believe it has anything specific to Pikmin in it anymore, so we can do the same thing here. Move creature towards. That could be a Pikmin or a monster. Sure enough, that still works. So now all the functions that were Pikmin specific can now work for Pikmin or monsters. We didn't have to change a whole lot. Ever feel crazy after coding doing comp sci stuff after a while, like with all the made up terms, constant serial names? Nah, no, I think I'm just insane because this is like my comfort place. Like, living in this made-up land of fictional terms and variables and all of that just is very relaxing to me. Which I think, like, the real world is big and scary and complicated, but living in the world of computers, everything is very logical and structured and makes sense. And real life doesn't feel that way sometimes. So, I almost prefer dealing with computers in a lot of cases. That's kind of where my headspace is at on programming. Alright, so why is this unhappy? Oh, right. So we were implementing this function for dwarf bulborbs. So now we could just say move creature towards and pass in the dwarf bulborb. And all that logic still works. Deal with computers before computers deal with you. That's the plan. Okay, so now if dwarf bulborb is told to move, it moves towards the thing. So actually, now that we've done that, I do have a thought. So, you know, okay, we'll continue like this for now. But like, we do have a surprising amount of overlap between what monsters can do and what creatures can do. Consider, for example, the humble bread bug. Pikmin can have commands to pick up stuff and carry it. Bread bugs also pick up and carry stuff. So we could copy and paste that code, or we could potentially later merge some more logic between Pikmin and monsters, so that monsters can also pick up and carry stuff. But that would take a little bit, so let's move on for now. I got ahead of ourselves too quickly. So, we implemented the move command by just doing the exact same thing we do for Pikmin. We even made a way to reuse the same function for it. But now chase is a little bit more specific to monsters. Regular Pikmin don't chase each other. So let's take a look at what happens when we tell Pikmin to pick up something, because that's pretty similar to what we're doing here. We're chasing after something specific. So when a Pikmin is told to pick up a collectible, it checks to see if the collectible still exists. If it doesn't, it goes idle, which makes sense. If you're trying to pick up a pellet, but the pellet has already been cashed in, then there's no point in continuing to do that. And then we move the creature towards, the Pikmin in this case, towards the thing that it's trying to carry. And if it reaches it, then we do all kinds of logic. Otherwise it goes idle. So we're going to do basically the same logic here, but for chasing after a specific Pikmin. So let's get the target Pikmin. There we go. The target of our chase command. So if the Pikmin that we're trying to chase is deleted, then we just go idle. And that'll let us potentially, once we go back to idle, chase after a different Pikmin, using this logic that we've already written. But if the Pikmin has not been deleted, then we need to do more logic. Should be continue, not return. Continue. Continue on to the next dwarf bulb orb in the list to do logic for. Alright, so if we're chasing after the Pikmin and they haven't been deleted, then we can move our dwarf bulb orb towards the Pikmin. So our target position is the Pikmin's X and Y coordinate. And in order to get close enough to eat it, that's going to depend, but let's say Pikmin on average, well, let's see, do we have a radius on dwarf orbs? We do not currently. Okay. Let's just hard code a number for now. Let's say we gotta get 10 pixels, within 10 pixels of it. And we pass in our delta time. That's the logic, little math thing that gets used to make everything move smoothly over time. So don't have to worry about that too much. Okay, so we move towards the Pikmin, and if we reach the Pikmin, then the stuff inside this if will execute. So if we've reached the Pikmin, then we're going to try to eat the Pikmin. Then we get our current time for eating. And let's say it takes dwarf bulbs, what, like half a second to eat a Pikmin? Something like that. For now, let's just have them eat one at a time. So the list of targets they're trying to eat is just the one Pikmin that we're already chasing. There we go. If we haven't reached them yet, then we just continue chasing after them. That should all make sense to me. So let's see how this is going. If we load up the game right now, how does that look? So we can see some of these dwarf bulb orbs walking around a little bit. So like that guy just chased down that blue Pikmin and got to him and stopped. So they're not eating anything currently, but I think they're trying to eat. We check our list of dwarf bulborbs here. And we can tell this one is trying to eat. I'm trying to eat a specific Pikmin. Very cool, very cool. But eating doesn't actually do anything yet. But we are on the right track. So our chasing behavior is good. So now we implement eating. So for eating, generally the Pikmin becomes incapacitated while it's being eaten. And then once the Pikmin has been fully eaten, once enough time has passed, then the Pikmin itself is killed. And the monster can go on to doing other things. So the way we can do that is kind of similar to how we do idling for Pikmin. So here we subtract delta time from our idle timer for the Pikmin until it hits 0. And when it hits 0, and the timer counts down to 0, we then go on and do other things. So we can do the same thing here. We count down the eat time timer, which is half a second here. And if eat time goes less than or equal to 0, if our timer is counted all the way down, then we need to kill the Pikmin we're eating. So let's loop through all of our eating targets. And delete the Pikmin. And I think there's some other things we need to do. We need to remove them from certain lists. Yeah. So remove from the list of Pikmin. Remove from the list of all entities. If we had sound effects implemented, this is where we'd play that terrible sound of the Pikmin dying. And we potentially spawn in one of their little ghosts. The Pikmin souls as it disappears. But for now, we're just going to delete them. Simplest solution for now. Okay. And then after we've deleted all the Pikmin, then we'll go back to being idle, which potentially allows us to chase other Pikmin. There we go. And I can even see some of the bulborbs chasing down Pikmin as the Pikmin run away. And the Pikmin can actually be faster than the bulborbs, so good for them. But if they stand idle, then the bulborbs catch up to them and munch them. Look at our Pikmin count, just keeps going down. Tragic. We've got a few Pikmin over here on the left, and everyone else is dead. Why they instantly delete the Pikmin is so sad, but also funny. Yeah. Alright, so we can do a little bit more to make that eating feel... not better, because it still sucks when your Pikmin are getting eaten, but look a little bit better. So let's have the Pikmin keep track of who's currently eating them. I don't even know what you call that. Just eater. And they may or may not have one, so let's have null as an option for nothing eating them. So, understandably, by default, a Pikmin is not being eaten. Oh, yeah. Uh, hmm. Do I want to implement it that way? Thank God. Yeah, by default, Pikmin are not being eaten. That'd be kind of terrifying if that was not the case. So, when a Pikmin gets eaten, that kind of interrupts anything that it was trying to do, right? Like, they don't continue to carry things while they're eaten. They don't continue to move, they don't continue to attack, they are just eated. So really, Pikmin are just stuck into a state of either being eaten or not being eaten. Being eaten is just one of the many things that they can be doing. So even though it sounds kind of weird, I think we actually consider it a command. It'd be very funny if they kept carrying stuff while being eaten. It would be really funny, but it would also not make a lot of sense. So even though it's not a command that the player could give to a Pikmin, let's have a command for Pikmin that are currently being. Let's call it struggle. Under the assumption that Pikmin are just giving up and immediately dying, even though that's usually what happens. Because being eaten sounds like a weird command name. So I'm going to call it struggle. Sounds a little bit more like what the Pikmin is actually doing. But that is going to represent when a Pikmin is being eaten, is when they're struggling. So, Pikmin struggles. And then we do keep track of the monster that is eating them. Struggle sounds more existentially brutal. Yeah. The endless struggle of being a Pikmin. Getting eaten. Because your captain wasn't paying attention and let you die. Tragedy. Okay, so then we shouldn't have to update most of our regular code. Hello, Carrick. How's it going? How's it going? So, when a dwarf bulborb starts to eat a Pikmin, it's right here, when we've chased down the Pikmin and we start eating them, we're going to also tell all the Pikmin that are being eaten to start struggling. So every Pikmin that we are targeting, we're going to interrupt whatever they were doing and tell them to struggle instead. The eater is the dwarf bulborb. There we go. And then when we finish eating the Pikmin, we just delete them, so they're gone at that point. So that sounds about right. That can all stay the same. Now we change the logic a little bit here. When the Pikmin is being eaten, we don't draw them on screen. Because they are inside the dwarf bulborb's mouth. So if they are struggling, we will skip all the code for drawing the Pikmin sprites. There we go. So now you can see like the blue guy up in the top corner. Dwarf bulborb walks up to him. Snap, snap. Gone. Then after a second, the dwarf bulborb is finished digesting and moves on to the next Pikmin. You can see like he gets nabbed, and then it takes half a second before the counter actually goes down. So we still have that half-second eating delay, but the Pikmin themselves visually disappear immediately. So that should work out pretty well. So now we got dwarf bulborbs that eat Pikmin. So that's half of combat implemented. Unfortunately, the Pikmin currently have no way of fighting back. So that's tragic. Okay, and we can also add an animation for them being eaten. So when we set up the sprites, we did make some sprites for kind of an attack animation here. So these last two sprites down here are the mouth opening and closing. So we can make that an animation that we can play. Let's go ahead and do that since we have that implemented and I'm thinking about it. Let's see, how's the Overwatch League doing? They're still doing stuff. Cool. Halftime stuff. Sprites. There we go. That's where I was looking. So we got Dwarf Bulborb Walk sprites. We're also going to need Dwarf Bulborb Attack sprites, but let's find the sprite definitions first. Okay, so we got Dwarf Bulborb Walk here. So we're also going to need Dwarf Bulborb Attack. And there we got each of the 4 cardinal directions. So let's start with down. I'm going to open this up in an image editor. So we can grab the coordinates for each sprite easier. There we go. Okay, so this is the one where the Bulborb is facing down, and this is the first frame of the attack animation. Let's grab that. We get a grid on here, so we can see how the sprites are lined up. And snap to grid. There we go. So we need this frame of this animation here. Now set horizontal coordinate 384, vertical coordinate 768. So 384, y of 768. That matches that up there, width of 64, height of 64. Offset is probably the same too. Center of the sprite, 32 and 32. And how many frames of this attack animation do we have? Just the 2. 1, 2. 2 frames. And let's run this at 10 FPS. And we'll see how that looks, and if we need to tweak it, we can. Now for the other 4 directions, it's just that, but move down 64 pixels. Next one will be at 832. Everything else is the same. So that's down, up. 832. And then right. At 896. And left at 960, it looks like. There we go. Okay, so animation frames are set up there. And now we need a quick little helper here to let us grab the right sprite based on what direction we're walking in. Orb attack, up, down, right, left. There we go. So now we just need to draw the attack frame when we are eating things. So here in our drawing logic down here, for Dwarf Bulborb, if we are currently doing an eat command, we're going to do different logic than if we're not. So if we are, I'm going to grab the attack sprite. there is no sprite for some reason, we skip it. And if it is there, we draw that sprite. If we are not currently eating, then we just draw the regular walk sprites. That should work. Let's see how that looks, so let's follow one of the bulborbs. Okay, yeah. You can see they do a little chomp with their mouths when they catch a Pikmin. Nom nom nom. And there goes our Pikmin population, absolutely decimated. So I think we can do a few things here. We can probably slow down how quickly they eat Pikmin. So instead of taking half a second to eat one Pikmin, we can bump that up to like a second and a half. Should buy our Pikmin a little bit longer to survive. There you go, you just got munched there. A little mouth flaps moving there. So it took a little bit longer there for our Pikmin population to get totally decimated. Now there's just this one yellow Pikmin surviving. Okay, so now for the most important element. Let's let our Pikmin fight back. They're not just going to stand idly by and get munched anymore. They are going to pick a fight. So let's add another Pikmin command type for attack. Alright, so when a Pikmin attacks... I wonder how that works in the base game. It probably depends on the enemy, right? At least visually how it looks is generally Pikmin will do damage after a certain at a certain speed. So like every quarter of a second or whatever, they'll do a certain amount of damage. As long as they're latched onto an enemy, and they'll just keep doing that until they die or until the enemy's dead. So let's implement it that way. So let's say we're attacking a monster. So we got our target. And we got like a cooldown essentially on the attack. So let's have an attack timer act as a cooldown. That should work. So like everything else so far, that's just another command type. So let's determine when that command type gets used. So if a Pikmin is currently in the middle of picking something up or carrying it or drinking, let's say that it's too distracted to engage in combat. And that's more unfortunate in a situation where you can't call them back to get them, rally them around attacking, but we need to balance this out somehow by you not having direct control of the Pikmin. So let's say when you're idle, specifically. You're not currently doing something else. So, if you're trying to collect something, that's one thing. If you're trying to grab nectar, that's another thing. Let's get all nearby monsters. And we don't actually have a monsters list. So let's fix that. Got specific lists for all these other things, but let's have a list for monsters. In fact, we shouldn't even have a list specifically for dwarf bulborbs, because we can always filter that down if we need to. Let's have a list just for monsters. Thanks to the hydrate. Saying drinkers made you laugh way too hard. Yeah, I couldn't think of a better word for that. So that's what it is. Which Pikmin are drinking the nectar. Those are the drinkers of the nectar. So currently, we do have some numbers that are specific to dwarf bulborbs in here. We can change that to make this more generic later, but for now, all monsters behave exactly like dwarf bulborbs. Is what it is. So let's find all nearby monsters. So just like everything else, we'll get the distance between the Pikmin. I guess the monster and the Pikmin. And let's say that the Pikmin aren't super eager to jump into combat. Generally speaking, they would prefer to do other things if they can. So, currently, our monsters get aggroed at 150 pixels, I believe. So let's say something a little bit shorter than that, like 100 pixels. So if there are any monsters that are very close by, especially ones that are currently actively trying to eat Pikmin, because they've gotten within that range, let's try to attack those. So if there are any nearby monsters, we get one at random. From the ones that are already close by. And we get a command to attack. So for a lot of kind of the actions that Pikmin have been able to do so far, we split it up into things like move to drink and pick up. But for attack, I think we can merge chasing after to attack and directly doing damage, potentially into the same command type. This could be two separate ones, but I'm feeling lazy, so let's just merge those. So our target is the nearby monster. And our attack time is our cooldown on attacking. Let's give them just like a really short delay no matter what type they are, just because it takes them a little bit to actually do damage when they've locked on to an enemy monster to attack. I guess we don't do continues over here because we got the else's. That's fine. Okay, so if there's a nearby monster, we move to attack the monster. Now let's implement that. So if our Pikmin is doing an attack, and we get a reference to our monster. And if our monster has been deleted, then we go idle. Very common pattern. But if we have a valid monster and we haven't deleted them, then we can do stuff. Okay. So let's check to see if we are nearby the monster, and if not, we move towards it. We already have a function for that. Move creature towards. So let's take our Pikmin and move them towards the monster's position. Currently we just, I think, have a hard-coded distance until they can get eaten, so let's do something similar here. So like 15 pixels. So if we've reached the creature, we are in attack range, then let's decrease our attack time. And if our attack timer reaches 0, then it's time to do damage again. So currently we don't have health on our monsters, so let's fix that. We need to actually be able to do damage. So let's have our health value and our max health value. Because the monsters do have health bars in the games that indicate that there is some fraction of their full health remaining, so we need to keep track of both numbers, where they're currently at and where they could be at, if they healed or were at full health or whatever. So let's have those two statistics. And then Pikmin damage isn't a stat because Pikmin damage depends on a variety of factors. So we'll put those calculations together here in a second. But either way, if our attack timer reaches 0, then we subtract the amount of damage we're going to deal from the monster's health. So for now, let's just hard code this at a number, and then we'll do calculations for it here in a second. So we can complete our train of thought here. We subtract the damage from the monster's health. And if the monster's health drops below 0, and 2 or below 0, then we killed the monster. So eventually we're going to want to drag the monster's corpse back to the onion, but I don't believe we have all the stuff for that implemented yet to convert them into a collectible. So let's just, for now, delete the monster from the game. We can come back and make this more true to actual Pikmin later. This will be slightly simpler for now. Okay, and then let's calculate that damage. So I'm going to pull up the Pikmin wiki again for this. Healing damage. Interface is jump scare. Yep. We do not seem to have health, although this is hard to confirm. Interesting. Likeliness to die. Okay. I think this is the important thing. So we got our table of Pikmin damage here. Doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. Different Pikmin types deal different amounts of damage per hit, so I think that's what we're looking for. Let's take... Let's see. Let's just take the Pikmin 4 numbers. Minus the rock Pikmin. We don't have any rock Pikmin in ours, but if we did, it'd probably balance them differently since we don't have a captain to throw Pikmin. So let's make a function here. Now love for rock Pikmin, yeah. Rock Pikmin are OP, need a nerf. Okay. Get Pikmin damage. So this is... looks like it's mostly just based on their color. So let's do things based on the color. And the Pikmin color is red. We do 15 damage per hit. No, sorry, they cease to exist. Yep. Tragedy. And if their color is purple, we don't have purple Pikmin either yet, so never mind. So we currently just have the 3 original colors. Red Pikmin do 15 damage, all other Pikmin do 10 damage. So, let's just say if they're red, then they have to do 15 damage. No matter what else, they do 10. Now, it looks like that also gets affected by Ultra Spicy Spray. Maturity doesn't have an effect on how much damage they do. Good to know. I don't have Ultra Spicy Spray in the game currently, but I could absolutely see that being a power-up that you could, like, spawn in with Twitch redeems. So I'm curious how this works. Any Pikmin's type's attack power is changed to 10. Ah, isn't this the thing where, like, it technically can be a nerf to red and purple Pikmin? Yeah. But their attack speed is increased to 180%. Interesting. So yeah, so as I guess, that would affect attack speed, but not raw damage. Okay, well that's the basics. So, Pikmin damage. Works for me. Let's see, Pikmin attack speed. Does anyone have this documented? Doesn't look like anyone's actually measured it. Interesting. So for now, let's just assume some number, and we'll roll from there. If they're killing way too fast or way too slow, we can adjust. Easily enough. Okay, where were we? Yes, okay, attacking. So our damage is going to be calculated. Get Pikmin damage. See, I love TypeScript. It's like, oh yeah, the number is either going to be 15 or 10. Those are the options. Will this be open source? Will the source code be viewable? And do you plan on sticking true to the games or modding stuff? Difficult question to answer. So obviously the copyright on this is technically very complicated. I'll leave it at that. So I definitely couldn't open source any of the sprites or anything. I could maybe theoretically open source the code, just the code. And then if you wanted to use sprites, I could help you find them. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And certainly if anyone's interested just for like personal usage of this, say small time streaming or just to review the code yourself for fun, I'd be more than happy to send it your way. But I do not want to make this a big public thing because I do not want to get sued by Nintendo. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, so we got our damage. And then we also need to reset our attack timer. So let's say a Pikmin can attack every, I don't know, like half second. That might be too fast, but let's see how that looks. So when the timer reaches 0, we reset it back to half a second, and then it'll continue counting down. If the monster gets deleted at any point, say if it gets deleted or monster's health is less than or equal to 0. We leave. Leave all the mechanics, but replace the sprites with crafting supplies with the new Craftman Twitch game overlay by Hawkbar. There you go. Yeah, if any artists out there want to make a definitely not Pikmin graphical set for this, that would certainly be one solution to the problem. I'm not a good enough of an artist to do that, so I'm using sprites I stole from DeviantArt. Hawkbar game overlay where all the sprites are bars and hawks. There you go. Pikmin are still getting munched, so let's see. Just bars of hawks. Yep. I'll play the sprites with breakbeats and Y2K logos. There you go. Alright, so we actually need to specify health for our dwarf bulb orbs. So let's head back to the Pikmin wiki. Dwarf bulb orb. The humble dwarf bulb orb. There we go, health values. That's what I was looking for. I just think it's been so different from game to game. 130 in Pikmin 1, 200 in Pikmin 2, and only 100 in the later games. I really got nerfed. Cool, well, I consider Pikmin 4 to be the definitive Pikmin game, so let's go with the Pikmin 4 numbers. Aqua numbers? So, say they have 100 health and 100 max health. Go figure. Let's see if we can get them to attack. And delete any of these bulb orbs. Ah, they got him. They got one of the ones down here. Nice. That one just got munched. They're fighting. They're fighting. They got him. Nice. Okay, so our Pikmin are now capable of fighting back. Very cool. Fight, 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 fight. Yep, that's the idea. Okay. So we got that, but combat definitely feels very, lackluster right now. There's not a lot of visual feedback of what's going on. So why don't we work on adding corpses? Now let's see, it looks like the third place match is ongoing. For the Overwatch League, very cool. So we are working on stuff. Okay. Now first off, we can add those ghosts for when things die. Let's see. Grab the sprite sheet again, the other one. Open that up. Oh no. Open it as a new image. There we go. Will there be noises, sounds? I'm still on the fence about that. Because if I want this to be kind of like a background game, then I wouldn't want it to be too distracting. More than it already is going to be. But if it's going to be like a main attraction to the stream, then maybe. Something you could put on like your BRB screens and stuff. So I'm still thinking about it. And so let me grab all these over here. They've already got sprites for all these ghost things. Noise is optional, maybe. Yeah, something like that. Probably putting all this miscellaneous stuff just up in this corner here, so let's do that. Okay. So let's separate these out. We're not going to use the purple or the white Pikmin ghosts right now. I'll maybe add the other colors as DLC, so to speak. For now, let's just do the tried and true original trio. So let's set up these frames here so we can make a fun little animation for the ghosts of the Pikmin as they're dying. There's red. How much Mad Scientist will a DLC cost? We'll figure that out as we go. How about? Nah, I obviously cannot charge for any of this, even jokingly. And I will once again state that I absolutely despair at the implementation of copyright law in the modern day. As fan art and fan games should not be blanket illegal. And companies should be allowed to facilitate them without putting themselves in legal jeopardy. And it's silly that's not how it works. Yep. Now, Nintendo might just be a big enough jerk to do it even if it was legal, but like that Hololive lets fan games be as long as they're fully free to play? Yeah. Because there's this whole legal school of thought that if you are like allowing people to use your IPs, then it can cause you to lose your protections. Because it says that you don't care about them, you're not enforcing them. So a lot of companies don't want to take that risk and just don't allow anyone to do anything. You say download Moemon while you still can. I know with Hololive, like generally the more popular fan games actually went and got permission from the company to do them, which is pretty awesome. Okay. Kind of awkward spacing here, but what can you do? So we got our little animations here. Let's update the sprite sheet. There we go. Now we need to add the code to draw all these sprites. Now in Holocura's case, they went and asked Cover if they could put it on Steam, but other than that, I don't know. Yeah. I think like the small Ame game also asked for permission before publishing. Alright, so these sprites are a little bit simpler than the more complicated ones, so that's nice. So let's say Pikmin Ghost. Or just do Ghost. Easy enough. So our Red Ghost. So this little animation frame here. So X. 896 pixels over. Mine is at 128. Width is 16 pixels. Height is 32 pixels. Offset doesn't really matter. We'll just do half those numbers. That's what we generally do. Language sounds like the Cult of the Lamb language. See, actually those exist in the same universe, didn't you know? I don't like Pikmin games where you increase the speed of the actually in Hawk word emotes. Oh boy. That'd be funny. Okay. So we want these ghosts to wiggle around a little bit as they're floating. So there are 3 frames. And let's have these frames run pretty slow. So let's just say, like, loop through all 3 frames over the course of 1 second. And we need the 3 other colors, so that's red. Yellow is going to be the same thing, but just lower. And blue is going to be same thing, but lower still. And the monster ones work differently. Monster deemed a sound alert by accident. I mean, that's what they're there for. By that I mean to throw you off, obviously. Would have jump scared you? Fair enough. Okay. Same X. 896. Y is 224. Width is 32. Height is 32. Offset is 16. 16. 3 frames. 3 FPS. Boyo! I'll do one intentionally though. Nice. Boyo indeed. Oh, red, yellow, blue. There we go. So there is only one monster ghost sprite, but for the Pikmin ghost sprites, it does depend on the Pikmin color. So let's have a little thing matching up the sprites. So we take the Pikmin color and match that up to a sprite definition. There we go. So Pikmin color red lines up with sprites ghost red. Yellow sprites ghost yellow. Blue sprites ghost blue. All right. Your better require more beverage, alrighty. And you guys are driving up that count fast. Only 80 more, and we've reached the previous maximum. Very impressive. I love that redeem because it's like it's so cheap that you should be able to afford a lot of them. So the main limiting factor is how easily bored you get clicking it over and over. I find it very entertaining. Okay. Spam it too if it was easier to redeem it. Yep. Thank you, Rocks. Figures Rocks, thank you. Okay, so we are resetting the count back. We didn't even get a high score, so the high score doesn't go up at all. And health break, thank you as well, Schwinn. I'll get to that in a second. Man, it's been a while since I've had to log into CheersBot for this. Yeah, it doesn't even remember me. I have to log in again. Hopefully I didn't just wipe out my configuration. Because that's a persistent bug that is super problematic. Okay, good. Alrighty. So here we go. Alas. Counter is going down to 0. And we clear that out. still got a bit of water, some good there, but I will take a quick stretch break. And I'm gonna need to reload the browser source. There we go. Back to 0. I was gonna wait till we reach it to reset to make it a true increment game. Yep. Unlucky. We're well on pace, and then rocks. Thank you, rocks. Alrighty. Let's see, how's that match going? Sparker up 1 map. Nice. Alrighty. And if they don't finish that match until when I have to leave to run errands, that's gonna suck. So I'll have to watch it after the fact, and I'm probably gonna get spoiled on Reddit. Okay, so let's implement ghosts. So currently, don't look at Reddit, easy. Yeah, I don't know, I'm addicted. Easier said than done. I also got a few friends that are watching, so they might message me as well. So I'll just have to avoid everything for an hour or two until I can watch it on YouTube, assuming the YouTube thumbnails don't also spoil it, because that happens. Okay, so ghosts are not Pikmin, they're not monsters, they're not anything else. Ghosts are their own thing. Just because they don't share hardly any behavior in common with anything else, so let's not hack it to make it look like they do. So we got a new entity type, Ghost. Entity type Ghost, there we go. So what is a ghost? Well, it is pretty much just a position and a color, and we already have those. Animation offset, that works. Glow Pikmin. Do not have Glow Pikmin on the roadmap currently. What is a ghost but a miserable pile of secrets? Have at ye. Thank you. No is a ghost, that is true. Alright. I think the only thing other than color that really distinguishes a ghost is how long they've been on screen. Because after a certain point, they disappear. So let's have a life timer. When that reaches 0, the ghost will delete itself. And we add ghost to our list of entity types, and there we go. Let's have a list of ghosts to track. So those are going to behave differently from Pikmin or monsters. Do we use nectar drops or anything? Oh, we do for targeting. Okay, that makes sense. They have their own logic. That does need to be its own list. Okay, so ghosts. So first off, let's draw the ghost sprite. So if we are drawing a ghost, and first we check to see if it's a monster ghost or not. So I think the way I'm going to distinguish is for monster ghosts. Actually, I could even do this here. Monsters do not have a color. So they're going to be a ghost with no color is a monster ghost. If it does have a color, then it's a Pikmin ghost. Actually, no, that is... Let me not do that. That's going to be confusing later when I come back to this. But same idea, though. If the ghost color is none. Then it is not a Pikmin ghost. So, we grab the monster ghost sprite. And we draw that sprite. There we go. If it does have a color, then it is a Pikmin sprite. So I get our Pikmin, our ghost Pikmin sprites. There we go. And pick the right one based on the color of the Pikmin. If there is no ghost sprite for some reason, then we skip drawing it. Otherwise, we do draw it. There we go. Easy enough. So now we can spawn in ghosts when things die. So when a Pikmin is eaten, currently we delete the Pikmin. We can also spawn a ghost for each Pikmin. So the x-coordinate will be the same as the Pikmin's coordinate. I'll be the same as Pikmin's y-coordinate. The color will be the same as the Pikmin's color. Animation offset will be a random number. And the mad scientist space really loves programming, possibly even unconditionally. Very nice. Thank you, Schwinn. Alright, and then the lifetime of this ghost, how long the ghost should stay on screen. Let's say something like 3 seconds. That may be too long, but we'll see. Long enough to notice, oh yeah, you killed a Pikmin. Good job, you. So then we can add this new ghost of the ASMR Badoomtis. Thank you. So let's add our new ghost to our list of ghosts and to our overall list of all entities so we can draw it correctly. There we go. So that'll spawn the ghost when the Pikmin is eaten, and then let's do the same thing when the monster is killed. So if the monster's health is completely depleted by a Pikmin's attack, it also lets out a ghost, but the color will be none, and it'll use the monster's position. Okay. So now we should spawn ghosts when things die, so let's see how that works. Alright, I can see there's a little blue Pikmin ghost over there. There's some monster ghosts where the Bulwarb-Zoer. See what's happening here? Alright, but currently the ghosts are staying on screen and they're never going away, because we don't have any logic to make them go away or move. So let's fix that. So this whole function here, our update function, controls all of our different things acting as they should. Loop through all the Pikmin and everything. So let's add another loop in here specifically for ghosts. So for each of our ghosts, let's look at the ghost and let's just have them float upward. By like 10 pixels per second, that's going to be too little probably. Let's say like 30 pixels per second. We'll see how that looks. And let's tick down the lifetime timer. And if the lifetime timer reaches 0, then we get rid of the ghost. There we go. And that should work, I think. That face when deleted is true. Yep. So let's see some Eden Pikmin. Okay, I think that was the right idea. Unfortunately, the ghosts are now drifting downward instead of upward. So I have that coordinate wrong, but that's the right idea, basically. So let's subtract from the y coordinate instead. They're going to hell. Sag. And then to make it a little more visually distinct too, let's also have them drift horizontally a little bit too. So let's have them randomly move left and right. There you go, so it's kind of hard to see because they're all behind the onions, but you can see Pikmin ghosts drifting around now. Tragedy. Nice, so making good progress. Now let's see if we can change the background color here so it's a little bit easier to see. Or I guess it'll be even better if we use the overlay version. There we go. There you go, so you can see the ghosts floating around. And we can get rid of that little yellow circle on everything. That's where we're indicating the pivot points, but we don't really need that. Now you can have Pikmin wandering around on screen. There you go, so you see all those ghosts leaving there at the top of the screen. So yeah, there we go. So we got combat now. Pikmin and monsters can die and it creates ghosts. You can see our Pikmin population going up and down in real time. So that's most of the main gameplay mechanics implemented for the most part. Assuming we're not going to implement captains, which we could. But we have not currently considered that. Alright, so what should we work on next? I guess we could add multiple enemy types. That'd be a good place to start next. You have a pseudocode or an outline written down, or are you winging it? Completely winging it. We also have to add a Twitch integration at some point as well. I haven't even started working on that side of things. Based. They're going to hell, yeah. So yeah, so that's all coming along. Let's see. Is there anything in here? Oh, it's going to be very confusing with the sprites layered on top. There we go. Suppose we get attack pellet posies. Those are an enemy that also becomes a collectible. Nice simple enemy that doesn't move anywhere. Let's see, can I change this grid size so I can see things a little better? In front of me, one might say. Potentially. There we go. Yeah, so it looks like we're gonna need about that much space for the posies. See, lining these up horizontally is going to be a bit of a pain. I have to mostly eyeball this. Okay, so this is 1 pixel off, naturally. This is a couple pixels off. Bum ba da dum bum 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 ba da dum bum 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 ba da dum bum 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 ba da dum bum 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 bum. Back over 1. There we go. Alright, now these are actually lined up. There we go. Took a bit. And because I'm lazy, and these are technically not symmetrical if we flip them, I'm just going to have just the one orientation for this enemy type. So let's define their sprites. Pellet Posy. Is that how it's spelled? Yes, okay. So red. Probably rectangle, select just the number part and flip that. It'd be awkward. Because of the 1 has the little triangle part sticking out of, on the left side. Yeah. So we're just gonna have them only in one orientation and it's gonna be okay. Alright, so our offset isn't going to be exactly in the center for this one, because I want it to be the base of the pellet posy. It's 128 pixels tall. Yeah, so let's say something like 32 pixels across. 116 pixels off from the top. I might need to adjust that. We'll see once it's in game. There's only 1 frame. No animation, so that doesn't matter. Red, yellow, blue. So the only thing that should be different should be the X coordinate. This will be 576. This will be 640. There we go. Pellet Posy color sprites. map of Pikmin colors to sprites. It's going to be basically exactly the same as the pellets themselves. I'm going to swap out the pellet for the pellet posy. There we go. So now let's see here. So we got another entity type now, a pellet posy. And the pellet posy will technically be an enemy, because that's what it has most in common with. The more I've been interacting with this, the more I'm realizing that Pikmin would actually be a really good fit for a component-based system instead of an inheritance-based system. He's got a lot of enemies that also behave like other things. Lots of enemies that are climbable things. And also a lot of obstacles that are climbable things but aren't enemies. We got enemies that can carry things like a Pikmin can. We got enemies that can become carryable corpses and enemies that don't. Time to refactor? Nah, we're in too deep. But definitely, if I were to start over from scratch, I would probably structure this a bit differently. Okay, so pellet posy. I don't actually think we need any additional information here. They basically work the same as any other enemy. They got a color, they got a position. They technically have a facing direction and health, and they could have a command, except they're always going to be idle. So now instead of only dwarf bulbarbs, we also have pellet posies as monsters. Now it's going to complain. Why is it complaining? Pellet posy cannot be dwarf bulwark. I know that. Those are two different things. I hard-coded any references to dwarf bulwark somewhere? Once component-based programming, I only learned object-oriented programming. So, very, very basic explanation here. So in object-oriented programming, you have a pure inheritance tree. So when things have behavior in common, you have them inherit that behavior from a parent class, and they form child classes of that. So for example, we have our entity class here, and then a monster is a type of entity. And a Pikmin is a type of entity. And if you have things that both Pikmin and monsters do, like, say, attack things, you would do that as part of entity. But then if you also have stuff like, I don't know, you've got pellets, which are also an entity. It doesn't make sense for pellets to attack, so you'd move that out of entity, and you'd make like a, I don't know, creature class. And that can attack. And then monsters would be creatures, and Pikmin would be creatures. So then also say you have, like, red bugs and Pikmin that can both carry things. Well, now, like, your creature class has to also know about carrying things, but a lot of creatures don't carry things, so it feels weird to reuse that. So you'd have, like, a creature that can carry. They can do that. Now if you have a creature that can't attack, though, then you'd split that out into a creature that can attack. And so monsters could potentially do either of those things, as can Pikmin. And it starts getting very ugly very quickly. There's ways to get around that using stuff like interfaces to have multiple different behaviors that one thing can inherit, but it gets very messy and there's not a lot of very good solutions in object-oriented programming. So instead of doing it that way, how component-based oriented programming works is you'll have a component in like attacker, and a component named carrier, and a component named like mover. And then you'd say something like class monster has an attacker component and a carrier component and a mover component, and say like a dropper for something that drops things when it dies. Aggregation, basically. But then say we have like pellet posy. Well, pellet posy is just a dropper. It doesn't move. It doesn't carry things or attack. You could have a component for like killable. Pellet posy is killable, and it can drop stuff. Monster is killable. And then, you know, a Pikmin can attack. But it doesn't drop things when it dies, so it doesn't have the dropper component. So it's a way of reusing little blocks of logic and data and kind of assembling more complicated entities out of multiple different components based on what you need for that particular type of entity, versus trying to implement just a linear hierarchy of parent to child. So yeah, basically aggregation. You aggregate a bunch of behaviors together. Usually the way it gets implemented in object-oriented languages is through child properties. Does a component have both functions and attributes? Yeah. So like here for attacker, you might have like attack speed and damage. Yeah. And then like an attack function. And carrier, you know, would have a carry function. Carry capacity. Blah, 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 so on and so forth. And then if you're in a language that doesn't have native support for components, which is most of them, then you have ugly stuff like killable update, attacker update. So you end up with some kind of gross glue code like that. But if you have an engine or a language that's designed to do this for you, then it'll do something instead more like killing, yeah. I'll have a global update loop, and it'll say like for every killable, all killables, killable dot update. I'm writing super random pseudocode here, but basically there'll be one giant update loop that the engine or the language will do for you that adds all these things together, all these update functions and callbacks and all of that. It'll handle all that glue code for you behind the scenes, so you don't have to write that yourself. And if it does it all for you, then you end up with just stuff like write your little update functions inside these components. Cries and Big O. Well, that's the trick. So you'll effectively have a ON loop for everything. But the idea is in practice, it's not going to be that huge because you're not looping through every single entity in the game for every single type of behavior. Like, you may have thousands of entities in your game, but only like 10 of them can actually carry things. So when you loop through your carrying update, you're only going to loop through those 10 things, and not every entity. Just notice our numbers got to reset. Yep, Rocks did it. You can blame Rocks. And when you have all of these things in linear arrays, turns out that CPUs are really good at running through big arrays straight through and running the same code for all of them in parallel. So when properly set up, a component engine is actually very parallelizable. You have all those different components updating at the same time on different threads. So actually a lot of modern game engines that are like custom designed actually end up using a component structure like that instead of a traditional object-oriented inheritance system. Thanks to the hydrate. So like the Unity game engine is an excellent example of that. The Unreal Engine uses a traditional hierarchy of entity classes for its base gameplay objects. So like an actor is different from a prop, which is different from an item. And in Unity, everything is an object that has components on it. And those components all handle their own behavior independently. And then you have to manually write a little bit of glue code if you need them to talk to each other, but more often than not, you don't need a lot of intercommunication. So anyway, all that to say, we're implementing pellet posies as monsters, because I'm not going to refactor this to use components. So here we are. Smiles and nods in UX UI. So there we go. Let's implement pellet posies. Yeah, they're just essentially monsters with no speed. What is refactoring? Refactoring is when you go through your code and change kind of the structure of it, the way it flows, to make it easier to make changes later. So like I was describing, like it's easier to describe like complicated entities that have all these different behaviors associated with them if we restructure our code to be component-based. But we're not going to do that. But if we were going to do that, that process of rewriting our code to use that different pattern would be considered refactoring. No idea how you remade the Neanners plushie. I reworked the design to make it easier to work with. That would make sense. Alrighty. Now we're getting the Pikmin 2 intro sequence here. Let's see. We don't even have a list of timestamps on this video. What are you talking about? I'm totally just leaving the game running in the background in the sound test mode. Yep. Yeah, another little bit of copyright violation that, for the most part, isn't punished. It totally could be, if companies were slightly more greedy than they already are. Okay, so let's spawn some pellet posies in. Let's see how it goes. Wireframing, prototyping, case studying. I do enough of that at work. Not gonna do that here. Okay, what was I doing? It's complaining about stuff. It's complaining about... Oh, yeah. Is there anything that's specifically referring to dwarfable orbs here? Creature speed, yeah. Enemy type, that's fine. The entity can also be a pellet posy. There we go. Is that it? Okay, that's all I needed to do. I was just missing that one line there. Okay. Cool. Here's where we need to start making this generic. I don't know what the fuck this song is, but I'm into it. I don't know. It's on the Pikmin 2 soundtrack. I have no labels for any of this, so I have no idea what this is. But it's in there somewhere, at the 2-hour mark. Well, idle game is so cute, I want to scream. Why do you think so? Yeah. That Pikmin death scream will haunt my dreams for the rest of my life. Yeah, okay. That Bulborb guy there is Manchin. The nectar. Yeah, they do sip the nectar. Pikmin is already tied to the Overlord challenge. Okay, so currently our logic for monsters is the same, so let's just do this, and this is gonna be really funny. So let's just go ahead and add our pellet posies in. So currently we spawn some dwarf bulbarbs. Let's spawn in some pellet posies. Okay, how much health do pellet posies have? Let's look that up. Piclopedia. They actually have more health than Pikmin 3, go figure. I guess because in Pikmin 3 they want you to like spend more time just like throwing Pikmin at problems while you go off and do other things. That actually does make some sense. Let's go with 50. I guess you're not supposed to get bonus damage from throwing it up on top. But I'm lazy. So, pellet posies are just monsters, so we'll just leave that as is. Let's spawn fewer Bulborbs, just to simplify things here. Okay. Let's reload the game. We are not drawing the pellet posies, so they're not doing anything. Let's fix that. Hide the overlay. There we go. That must have looked very confusing there. Okay. So let's get our drawing code in for the pellet posy. So, pellet posies do not eat or kill enemy Pikmin, so they just have the one sprite. Posy sprite. Pellet posy color sprites. There we go. Based on their color. They don't have a sprite for some reason, we skip them. If they do, then we draw that sprite. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. I still do not see any pellet posies. What am I doing wrong? Did I export the sprite sheet? I may not have. What am I doing wrong? So we're creating pellet posies. We are adding them to the list. Oh, they don't have a color. That's right. Pellet posies need a color. That would make sense. So let's just grab a random color. just like we do for standalone pellets. We're gonna spawn fewer pellets now that we are spawning full pellet posies. There we go. So look at that. Our pellet posies are our enemies. Which means they chase down and eat Pikmin. Yep. Because we do not have any code distinguishing dwarf bulborbs from other enemy types. Isn't that horrifying? Okay, so let's clean up some of our enemy code to take into account that we can have very different enemy types in the game. So first off, we already have this function here for getting our creature speed. So I think for pellet posies, accidental creeping chrysanthemum creation, exactly. So pellet posies should have a speed of 0. Pellet posies do not move. Even if they somehow get told to move, they do not. Alright, what other logic do we have that is enemy specific here? So, let me update Pikmin target monsters. That's all fine as is. Carry stuff. Yep. Pikmin behavior should be fine. When they're attacking, that just still work. They deplete enemy health. But pellet posies specifically should probably not spawn ghosts when they die. So we can change that. So we could specifically hack something in for pellet posies specifically, but maybe there's other enemies that should be killable things, but should not be considered living creatures that spawn ghosts. So let's add some ways of differentiating different types of monsters. So we already have health and maximum health. That's one way we distinguish them. But we can also say something like, I don't know. As ghost? Yes or no? And then we can also have something like speed. No, I guess we already have a speed function for that. We'll leave that one alone for now. Let's say something like peaceful. The pellet posies do not attack, they do not eat Pikmin. So we'll say the peaceful monsters just ignore everything else. That would make sense. So, when a monster is killed by a Pikmin's attack, we can check to see if the monster has a ghost. If it does, then we create a ghost for it. If it doesn't, we do not create a ghost. Another example of an enemy that could not have a ghost, but still be considered an enemy, would be stuff like the flame spout traps, or the lightning gate traps. Those would be considered enemies. They have health, they can be depleted, they can kill Pikmin, but they would not spawn ghosts when you kill them. So then in our monster logic, we have logic here to chase after Pikmin. We can say that if a monster is... We can change this to M for monster instead of D for dwarf bulborb. If the monster is peaceful, then we just skip all the logic for chasing after Pikmin. Which means we never chase them, we never eat them. We just chill. So now we just specify the logic and how it differs between dwarf bulborbs and pellet posies. So dwarf bulborbs have a ghost, and they're definitely not peaceful. Pellet posies do not have ghosts, and they are peaceful. You definitely never eat them. Yeah. Pellet posies are no longer eating Pikmin. Some Pikmin died there fighting that bulborb, but they're okay. So this blue Pikmin over here should start attacking one of the pellet posies. Maybe not. Maybe needs a little bit wider detection radius on attacking. I'm gonna make that tweak. They're a little bit not as aggro as they could be. Which is probably good for the player, but not so good for us when we're testing Pikmin AI. So let's update our Pikmin logic for when they're idle to chase after monsters that are a little bit further away. There we go. Okay, so they just destroyed that pellet posy. Decided to consider how chat affects the game yet? I'm not 100% sure yet, but my thought process right now is probably stuff like spawning in nectar or forcing certain types of pellet posies to grow, or even spawning in monsters to attack the Pikmin. It's kind of like a god game. You're just kind of introducing factors and seeing how the Pikmin react to it. Eventually, either trying to grow the Pikmin population or killing them off for your own amusement. Splitting chat into two teams would be crazy. If you actually like have that fully split. Now I'm assuming more just like the natural human instinct to screw things up for other people will drive some people to spawn in monsters. Alright, I'm gonna draw that circle for the pivot point to see where the pivot point is for the pellet posies. Yeah, it does seem to be where I thought it was going to be, so that's good. This is a call-out post, Schwinn. Okay. So for now, the pellet posy just shrivels and goes away, I guess. So we'll just leave that as is for now. But yep. So now a pellet posy has a monster that can be killed. But there's not a lot of point in killing a pellet posy until it drops pellets that you can actually cash in. So let's go ahead and add that logic in there. So pellet posies are the only ones that work specifically for this with pellets, which are different from regular monster corpses. So let's add in some specific logic just for pellet posies in this case. I don't see myself reusing that logic for other entity types, so we can get away with hard coding this. So if a monster has been killed, and it is a pellet posy, then we want to spawn a pellet there. Now it's got a bunch of properties on it. I'm just going to copy one of the ones from elsewhere. And so all this logic for the pellet. Oops. So the pellet will spawn in the same position that the pellet posy was. Color will be the same as the pellet posy's color. All those other values are reasonable defaults. Let's see. Do I have a blister pellet posies? Where do those go? Collectibles. And entities. There we go. There you go. So now they take out a pellet posy and it turns into a regular pellet that they can then bring back to the onion. It's getting ice cream. What do I do? You reset the count. Allegedly. You did do that, yes. Okay, so there we go. So let's do the same thing for dwarfable warp corpses. You do that 100 more times. Yep, not surprised. Everything is super cheap here. The primary limiting factor is human imagination. There you go, Pikmin can be eaten, they can kill. Got a self-sustaining little Pikmin colony here. I can slurp. Mm-hmm. There we go. Okay. So let's figure out monster corpses. Let's see, why do pellets have special logic again? Alright, because their value changes depending on if they're being deposited in the same color onion or not. That's right. But otherwise, they act like a standard collectible. So, most monsters drop corpses when they die. So I'm thinking we can reuse most of that logic here. Yep. Corpse. It's one entity type. Alrighty, what was I doing? Ah, yes. So, pellets, they primarily rely on their color to know how they differ, but for corpses, we need to know what type of monster they were, so we know what sprite to draw for them. So let's have a reference in here to the original monster that spawned the corpse. And even if they've been deleted, we can still keep track of what they used to be, so we can look at their stats. They're not actually deleted. We just ignore them from there. I'm going to say has corpse. It's a property on monsters. Most do. For example, technically pellet posies will not because they have their own logic. Because they drop pellets instead of corpses. So now we can say if the monster should drop a corpse, then we spawn a corpse. I got all these other properties on them. I forget. Okay, destination, they're not currently being dragged, so that should be null. No one is currently carrying them. Okay. Here's the important stats. How many Pikmin can carry them, how wide the carry radius is, and how many Pikmin they're worth when they're cashed in at a onion, and how heavy they are. All of these things depend on the monster type. So let's have our monsters specify what those values are. Then we'll say the monster that we know about. Alright, the carry limit will be the same as the monster's carry limit. Carry radius will be the same as the monster's carry radius. Weight will be the same as the monster's weight. Pikmin value will be the same as the monster's Pikmin value. Monster that we know about versus the monster she doesn't want you to know about. Exactly. Although, yeah, no, this is fine. So I'll just copy that off from the monster. So when a monster dies, it'll drop a corpse, and the monster will tell the corpse what all of its property should be, as far as being carryable. That makes sense. So then we can add the corpse to our list of collectibles and to our list of overall entities. Okay, and then the corpse is a type of collectible. And it's also a type of entity. Mr. Steelio Monster. That is what the Pikmin do, is it not? Okay, so now we need to set all these properties in the Dwarf Bulborb. I'm gonna go copy those from the Pikmin wiki for the ones we know. Okay, so can have max of 6 carriers with a weight of 3. So weight 3, carry limit 6, carry radius It's generally like half the size of the sprite, size of our dwarf bulb orbs. Those are 64 pixels wide. So carry radius should be like 32. Anything crazy? Probably. Yes, okay, 64 pixels wide, half of 64 is 32. I can do math. And then how many Pikmin are they worth? It's different in Pikmin 3 and 4 than Pikmin 1 and 2. So you're going with the lower health value, let's say 3. There were 3 seeds. Okay. And then pellet posies also have to have those values, but their corpses are different. So I'm going to give them nonsense values for all of those things, because they don't really have a corpse. And actually, there's a cleaner way to do this than to just have these all have values that do nothing. Instead of having a has corpse, true or false value, and then have all these properties, let's just treat corpse as a full object. It has all those properties on it. So a monster could even define a corpse with all those values, or it can have no corpse. So pellet posies do not have a corpse, so they don't have that. Pellet posies are just built different, exactly. But dwarf bulb orbs do have a corpse, so they get all those properties. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that's a little bit cleaner. I need to modify this slightly, so get all those properties from the monster's corpse properties. There we go. Okay, so now dwarf bulb orbs should spawn corpses, but we're not going to be able to see them because we don't have any rendering of corpses yet. But we do have them as collectibles. So obviously, corpse sprites are different than regular sprites. Corpse sprites are when they're dead, laying on the ground. Usually, their legs are hidden or folded up. So let's create a dead corpse sprite by just taking their body, flipping it upside down. There, look at that. What a beautiful corpse. And their eyes are still open, because that's how it works in the game too. It's terrifying. So let's define this sprite up here. Look at that, that's a beautiful corpse. Yep. So let's just add in another entry here for corpse. That's 512, 896. Width of 64, height of 64, offset 32, offset 32. Frames, just one frame. They are not animated, that would be terrifying. They still twitched if they were dead. And there we go, we got a sprite for our corpse. And then this one's gonna be a bigger little helper here. Corpse. Sprites. So we're gonna map the original monster's type to their corpse sprite. Dwarf Bulborb's corpse sprite will be sprites.dwarf-bulborb.corpse. There we go. No other monster has a corpse currently. So now to draw the corpse, just add another thing down here. So we got our corpse, and then our corpse sprite. Oops. And then we use the original monster's type as the input there. If there isn't a corpse sprite, then we skip it. Otherwise, we draw it. Same as usual. And if we wanted to make it animated, we, scarily enough, could. Be kind of horrifying. Okay, so now Dwarf Bulborb should drop corpses when they die. Didn't look like it did. Okay. Where did we go wrong? I probably forgot to animate it. Or export it. There we go. Okay, so that one just died. And they are dragging their corpses over to the onions. Nice. Look at that. There we go. R.I.P. little buddy. Yep. Those Pikmin were too busy drinking nectar and all died. That's tragic. And looks like they could afford to be a little bit closer. I'm carrying that corpse, so let me tweak that number real quick. Let's see. And let me look at the actual sprite. Alright, half the sprite is like 16 pixels, so let's change that to 16. Other than that, and there you go, they kill those Bulborbs. And they need multiple Pikmin to be able to carry them, as intended. They need 3 Pikmin to carry, but they can have up to 6. And that speeds up carrying them. And boom, look at that! We got a full combat loop going. Alright, the grand finals match just started. I gotta leave in a few minutes, so I think we might just end the stream early. So much making progress on this, it's so cool. Yeah, making good progress today. When we started off today, we had Bulborb sprites, but no behavior at all. And now we've got a full kill corpse loot cycle. Even added pellet posies. Alright, let's find ourselves a raid target. I need to be careful not to dox myself here, more than I already have. So yeah, maybe next time we'll work on polishing some stuff up, adding more monster types, and then maybe start working on the Twitch integration side. That should be interesting. It's been a little while since I've worked in depth on a new Twitch project. You know, it's been a little bit since we've raided Lily, so why don't we go say hi to Lily? Love the programming streams, I'm glad. I've always been a little bit worried about this type of content, because it's not the most visually interesting. That's why I tried to pick a game that would be mostly visual feedback. So it's not just me blindly writing code the whole stream, but still. Not as engaging as like a video game that's you're just playing the whole time, I think. But glad you're all enjoying it. Thank you all for being here. Annika and Schwinn and Yahazu and Rox and Dropshotter and Carrick and everyone else is lurking. And thank you so much again for the raid, Annika. I really appreciate it. It's always nice to see you, and I'm glad that you had a great stream as well. Brain expands during the programming streams. It's awesome. I'm glad. Glad I can do that for you, share a little bit of my love of programming, because I do love it quite a lot. Alrighty, so hope you all have a great week. I've missed Pikmin stream like 2.5 weeks in a row now, but plan is to stream Pikmin at the usual time on Tuesday. Hopefully I'm not feeling sick, but I've been feeling better the past couple of days, so fingers crossed. More Fire Emblem on Friday, and then, with luck, more work on this project again next Sunday. Now say refactor whenever possible to seem smarter. Sounds good. Alright, see y'all later. Have a great week.